everyone. Welcome to the fourth prose unit in your syllabus called The Ashes That Made Trees Bloom by William Elliot Griffiths. This is a Japanese folktale retold in two parts. We are going to do the first part in this video. I'll start by briefly introducing the story to you, and in the next part I'll read and explain the text line by line along with the difficult words and their meanings. So let's jump straight into the introduction. This story is the retelling of an ancient Japanese folktale. It is set in an ancient time when the Daimyo ruled in Japan. Now, before moving any further, let us understand what the term Daimyo means. The Daimyo were the powerful noblemen or landlords who existed in pre-modern Japan, and they ruled most of the country from their vast hereditary land holdings. In this term, Dai means large and Myo stands for Maiden, meaning private land. So Daimyo were the most powerful rulers from the 10th century to the middle 19th century in Japan, who ruled over people because they had large chunks of land with them. This is a story about an honest and hardworking old couple and their pet dog who dies in the end. The story explores how the cruel and cunning neighbors try to deceive or cheat the old couple, but they meet a very sad end. The spirit of the dog gives solace and support to the master in unexpected ways. So now that I have introduced the story to you, let's start reading it. In the good old days of the daimyo, there lived an old couple whose only pet was a little dog. Having no children, they loved it as though it were a baby. The old dame made it a cushion of blue crepe, and at mealtime, Muko, for that was its name, would sit on it snug as any cat. The kind people fed the pet with tidbits of fish from their own chopsticks and all the boiled rice it wanted. Thus treated, the dumb creature loved its protectors like a being with a soul. So long ago, in ancient Japan, when the world was ruled by daimyo, like I told you, were the landlords. There was an old couple who had a dog named Muko. So the old dame means lady, the old lady made a blue crepe cushion for Muko and gave him lots of tasty food, such as his favorite fish and boiled rice. The old couple treated the dog with lots of love and care, and in return, the dog also loved them like a human being, like a being with a soul. The old man, being a rice farmer, went daily with hoe or spade into the fields, working hard from morning until O Tento Sama, as the sun is called, had gone down behind the hills. So the old man was a rice farmer. He went to his field with a hoe or a spade. You can take a look at the picture of these tools here. He worked hard from the morning till the evening, when the sun went down behind the hills. Every day the dog followed him to work, never once harming the white heron that walked in the footsteps of the old man to pick up the worms. For the old fellow was patient and kind to everything that had life, and often turned up a sword on purpose to give food to the birds. So the faithful dog followed his master to the fields. He was very careful not to harm or disturb the white heron who picked up worms for eating. You can take a look at the picture of the white heron here. This shows that the old man was very kind and patient towards every living creature, be it human beings, animals, or even birds. Sod means the surface level, the soil, which contains roots of grass along with little worms or insects. So the old man sometimes dug up the sod to provide food, to provide worms to these hungry birds. One day the dog came running to him, putting his paws against his legs and motioning with his head to some spot behind. The old man at first thought his pet was only playing and did not mind it, but the dog kept on whining and running to and fro for some minutes. The old man followed the dog a few yards to a place where the animal began a lively scratching. Thinking it was possibly a buried bone or a bit of fish, the old man struck his hoe in the earth when lo, a pile of gold gleamed before him. So one day the old man's dog came running towards him and started moving towards a spot. A spot means a particular place. So the old man thought that he was just playing, so he ignored it. However, the dog kept on whining and running to and fro. To and fro means front and back. Finally, the old man went to that place with the dog, where it began scratching the earth in an excited manner. When the old man struck the earth with his hoe, suddenly he found out that there was a pile means a heap of gold in the earth which was gleaming, which was shining before him. You can take a look at the picture and you can see that the old man dug the earth with his hoe and found a pile of gold in the earth. Thus, in an hour, the old couple were made rich. The good souls bought a piece of land, made a feast for their friends, and gave plentifully to their poor neighbors. As for the dog, they petted him till they nearly smothered him with kindness. So the old couple became very rich with all that gold that they found. They bought some land, made a feast. Feast means a large meal for their friends. They invited their friends for a large meal, and they also gave a good amount of money to their poor neighbors. Plentifully means in an ample, a large amount. They petted, they loved their dog and nearly smothered. Smothered means suffocated him with kindness. So this shows that the old couple was not selfish at all. They not only bought land for themselves, but they also helped their neighbors and celebrated with them. Now in the same village there lived a wicked old man and his wife, not a bit sensitive and kind, who had always kicked and scolded all dogs whenever any passed their house. Hearing of their neighbor's good luck, they coaxed the dog into their garden and set before him bits of fish and other dainties, hoping he would find treasure for them. But the dog, being afraid of the cruel pair, would neither eat nor move. So, wicked means evil or bad. So, in the same village, there was an evil couple who were not sensitive or kind. They hated all animals and they used to kick and scold dogs. When this selfish couple heard that the good old couple's dog had brought them such a good fortune, such good luck, they coaxed. Coaxed means lured or fooled the dog to come into their garden. They gave him small bits of fish and other dainties. Dainties means other tasty food items. So the selfish couple tried to lure the dog with food, thinking that he would tell them where the treasure was in their garden. Now, treasure means a collection of jewelry, money, and other such expensive things. But the dog was very scared of the cruel couple. So he neither ate anything that they gave him nor did he move at all. So we see how an evil couple tried to force the dog to find treasure for them. Although they always kicked and scolded all dogs, but because they wanted money, they tried to please this old couple's dog. But it all went to waste because the dog did not tell them anything. He did not tell them where the treasure was. Then they dragged him outdoors, taking a spade and hoe with them. No sooner had the dog got near a pine tree growing in the garden than he began to paw and scratch the ground, as if a mighty treasure lay beneath. So when the dog did not help them to find the treasure, they decided to take him to their field. So as soon as they reached there, the dog started to scratch the ground as if a mighty means huge or large treasure was hidden under the pine tree. "Quick, wife, hand me the spade and hoe," cried the greedy old fool as he danced with joy. So the greedy man excitedly asked his wife for a hoe to dig the earth. He started dancing with joy because he thought that they are going to become rich. Then the covetous old fellow with a spade and the old crone with a hoe began to dig. But there was nothing but a dead kitten, the smell of which made them drop their tools and shut their noses. Furious at the dog, the old man kicked and beat him to death. And the old woman finished the work by nearly chopping off his head with the sharp hoe. Then they flung him into the hole and heaped the earth over his carcass. So covetous means extremely desirous of something or being too greedy about something. And crone means old woman. So the greedy old man and his old wife, they both began to dig the earth. But they found no treasure under the soil. Instead, they found a dead kitten which smelled so bad that they had to cover their noses. This made them furious. Furious means angry. So furious that they kicked the dog and beat him to death. The old woman almost chopped means cut off the innocent dog's head with a sharp hoe. They both flung him. Flung means throwing something violently. So they flung the dog into a hole and made a pile of soil over his carcass. Carcass means dead body. So we saw how the cruel, evil old couple killed the innocent dog for their selfish needs and buried him in the soil. The owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet and, mourning for him as if he had been his own child, went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes in the ground, such as are used before tombs, in which he put fresh flowers. Then he laid a cup of water and tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks of incense. He mourned a great while over his pet, calling him many dear names as if he were alive. So the old man, the owner of the dog, was very sad. He mourned. Mourned means expressed his sadness, his grief over the death of his beloved pet. He loved him dearly, just like his own child. So at night, he set up some bamboo sticks around his grave and he put up flowers where the dog was buried to honor his soul, to pay his respects to his lovely dog. He also put a cup of water and some food on his grave, and he burned some incense sticks for fragrance. The old man did all this to show his love and respect for the dead soul, the dead dog. That night, the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, "Cut down the pine tree over my grave and make from it a mortar for your rice pastry and mill for your bean sauce." So the old man had a dream about the dog. He told the old man to cut down the pine tree under which he was buried by the cruel old couple and make a mortar and a mill. You can take a look at the picture here. The bowl like thing is called a mortar, and this wooden machine on the left is called the mill. So the old man chopped down the tree and cut out the middle of the trunks, a section about 2 feet long. With great labor, partly by fire, partly by chisel, he scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. He then made a long handled hammer of wood, such as is used for pounding rice. So the old man did exactly as he was told by his dog spirit that visited him in his dream. He cut down a 2 feet long section from the pine tree and with a lot of hard work using a chisel. Chisel means a sharp tool and fire, made a small bowl and a wooden hammer. Take a look at the mortar and the pestle here in the picture. It is used to pound rice, to beat rice to make a fine paste out of it. When the New Year's time drew near, he wished to make some rice pastry. When the rice was all boiled, Granny put it into the mortar. The old man lifted his hammer to pound the mass into dough, and the blows fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. Suddenly, the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins. When the old woman took the hand mill and filling it with beans began to grind, the gold dropped like rain. So it was New Year's time when the old couple decided to make some rice pastry. So they boiled some rice and used the wooden mortar and pestle to make a dough. And when the dough was ready for baking in the fire, they both suddenly realized that the dough turned into a heap of gold coins. And as the old woman filled the wooden mill with beans to grind them, she found that the gold coins started to drop from it just like rain. So instead of bean sauce, what started to drop from the mill was gold coins. So the old couple became magically rich again as they had heaps of gold coins now. Meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window when the boiled beans were being ground. "Goody me!" cried the old hag as she saw each dripping of sauce turned into yellow gold, until in a few minutes the tub under the mill was full of a shining mass of gold. So the envious means the jealous neighbor, was peeping. Peeping means secretly watching this miracle from the window. His wife, the old hag or the old woman, cried out in surprise, meaning that she screamed in shock. She watched the bean sauce turn into gold, and she watched the tub under the mill filled with heaps of gold coins. So the old couple were rich again. The next day, the stingy and wicked neighbor came and borrowed the mortar and magic mill. They filled one with boiled rice and the other with beans. Then the old man began to pound and woman to grind. But at the first blow and turn, the pastry and sauce turned into a foul mass of worms. Still more angry at this, they chopped the mill into pieces to use as firewood. So using the mill and the mortar, the good old couple became very rich. They're stingy. Stingy means someone who does not like to spend any money. And wicked like I told you means evil. So the stingy and evil neighbors were watching all of this from the window, and therefore they borrowed the mill and mortar from the old couple. They also wanted to become rich like them. But as soon as they started to pound the rice and grind the beans, it turned into a foul. Foul means bad smelling. It turned into a foul mass of worms. Worms means little crawling insects. The couple got so angry that they chopped. Chopped means cut up the mill into small pieces to use it as firewood. So that was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. We'll cover the second part in the next video.